Well, thank you, Ting, for your crazy Kyolche talk. Tim sat, the first time I ever sat Kyolche, Tim sat that retreat also. And that's how I first got to know him. For people who have not sat a long retreat like that, being crazy is an inevitable part of it. You're forced to sit in silence with your own mind with no distractions. Ordinarily, we can distract ourselves, and ordinarily, we can find any sort of justification for what we think is the right thing to do and what we think we are and what we think other people are, and so on and so forth. That all goes away, and you're just left with your sort of naked self. And oftentimes it's not pretty, and oftentimes it is pretty crazy, and that's part of the value, I think, of an extended retreat like this. So you're not alone in that, certainly. And just briefly, maybe not everyone knows, but Zen Master Mangang was the teacher of Zen Master Kobang, who was the teacher of Zen Master Sung San, who came and taught all of us. And that's the genesis or the part of the lineage of this teaching that's come to us from Korea. So does anyone have any questions?
How is it that the safest place is the most dangerous place?
Well, that depends on what you think is safe. There's no place that's safe. We've created an illusion of safety in our lives. We spend most of our time and energy creating that illusion. We set it up as much as possible to make ourselves feel safe. And essentially what that is a denial of the fact that we are mortal. I mean, it comes down to that. And that's what this practice is really about. It is life and death, literally. Death is certain. It comes without warning. Then how shall we live? That's the question that faces all of us. When we think safety means ignoring that, we think, as Ting read, that we sort of come together in these situations in life. It's kind of a mysterious process. Got a name called karma, but that's just a name. It doesn't really explain anything. And we tend to create patterns. We tend to create relationships. We tend to create sort of modes of thought. We tend to create behaviors that are going to maintain that for us somehow. That are going to maintain the idea, the illusion that as long as this remains, as long as this is steady, as long as this is not threatened, then I'm okay. Then I'm safe. Then this moment is never going to arrive for me. It hasn't arrived yet. I woke up again this morning. Must mean something. Maybe it means I'm always going to wake up. And I think that's how we live our lives. That's what I think he was describing as safety, which is just, it's delusion. This world's a dangerous place. There was a great movie years ago called The Missouri Breaks. Marlon Brando and Jack Nicholson starred in it. It was a Western. And there's a great line in there. I'm pretty sure it was Jack Nicholson said, "It takes a lot of nerve to live in this world." Which is true. It is a dangerous place. Nobody guarantees anything. The next moment is not guaranteed. And I guess as Ting read, at some moment you're going to face the moment of your death and you're absolutely blind beyond that. What does that mean? What does that lead to? How have you lived your life? And for what? So if we try to maintain this supposed safety, we're living in a dream. And the whole point of our practice, the whole point of Zen practice is to wake up from this dream, to wake up from this delusion, to see our situation clearly. Now, I think a lot of us think, I've certainly thought, that that means there's going to be some sort of transformation. some sort of, something's going to shatter, something's going to hatch, something's going to break. There's going to be some sort of discontinuity where the old me was, and beyond that is going to be the new me, and the new me is undoubtedly going to be much improved and better. That may or may not happen. If it does, it's a happy byproduct, because this is really so fundamental. You know, what this is aiming at. We can't even talk about it. I mean, we have to talk about it because we have what Zen Master Sung San called thinking sickness, or explanation sickness, you know. So we have talking sickness as medicine for that, in sort of a homeopathic way, I guess. We have to talk about it somehow. But as Ting said, this essentially is a mind-to-mind transmission. You need a teacher, but the question is, who is your true teacher? Where is your true teacher? So we have people that are called teachers. In my case, years ago, I had an orange Volkswagen that taught me an immense amount just by glancing at it out of the corner of my eye for one moment while I was waiting for a ride. It was inexplicable, and yet. So, you know, in Zen, there's this saying, moment to moment, your true teacher is always right in front of you. So what is it? There's no such thing as safety. We go to great lengths to try and create safety. I'm not disparaging that by any means. I think human welfare has been improved immeasurably in many ways by the safety measures that are available to us that weren't available to our ancestors. But essentially, there's no such thing. Anything can happen at any moment. And if you really look at that, it's terrifying. You could die. Worse, people you love could die. Just simply disappear, just like that. No warning. Then what? You know, and if you're not, well, it's devastating in any case, but I was going to say, if you're not actively aware of that and looking at that and looking at that and looking at that, it's all the worse, I guess is what I want to say. So because this is such a terrifying situation for us, because so many of us have such deep suffering within us, and because so many of us have heard that Buddhism or Zen is about the cessation of suffering, many people, you know, come to this practice for that reason. And so one way that this practice evolves, and one way that this practice supports us, and one way that this practice is handed down is through sangha, through all of us here today, all of us that we know, all of the wider sangha, and really all beings when it comes down to the final analysis, I guess. We have that support, and I think that's just absolutely vital. You have to work it out yourself, but to keep at that, it is so valuable to know that you're among like-minded persons, to know that there's people you can talk to about it, to know that there is an unbroken, I don't know what to call it, human tradition behind all of this. It's not just Zen or Buddhism or Islam or Christianity or Sufism or the Desert Fathers or any of that sort of stuff. You know, it's something before all that, and we're partaking of it. So for that, I'm very grateful. And for that, I really want to encourage everyone to consider this moment, to consider who is your true teacher, where is your true teacher, and then what? And that's up to you. That's yours. That's yours to work out. So thank you. Was that Allie? I'm sorry. Was that Allie had to ask the question? Or was... Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Hi, I have a question. Specifically, like whenever you're doing something in a group of people, you get criticism to try and do that thing better. So what I'm wondering is, how can you accept that criticism and like grow from it without taking it personally and kind of making a problem with it in your head?
I'm not sure many of us receive criticism without taking it personally. I mean, I know we all have the idea of, well, constructive criticism, thank you very much, I'll, blah, blah, blah. But I think just probably most of us resent it, when we get it. That's not to say it may not be justified. In the original Buddhist sangha, and still today in certain traditions, everyone gets together at a certain time and does this sort of self-confession. Oh, here's what I did, here's what I did, here's what I did. Here's how I was lacking, here's how I was cruel, here's how I was thoughtless, here's how I spoke badly, so on and so forth. Which may, in some sense, fulfill the purpose of criticism from the outside in a more, it may be a more mindful way of approaching it, because you're having to examine yourself rather than projecting that onto everyone all around you and resenting them for whatever you think about them. But I have to say that there have been times in my life when I've gotten criticism that really, really stung. It really hit the mark. And it's kind of a humiliating experience, to have that happen. And like I say, it's difficult to take that other than personally. And I think that if you're going to offer criticism, it behooves us to do that in a way that is going to help someone as much as possible. It's very easy, as I said, to project your own likes and dislikes onto somebody else or some other situation and approach them or it that way and say, oh, that's wrong, you're doing that wrong. Here's what you should be doing, blah, blah, blah. That's also very human. But it's not very helpful. So I guess fundamentally what I would say the best thing you can do in these situations is maybe have enough self-awareness, enough insight into yourself so that none of that comes as a surprise. Maybe. Maybe that's just too much of an ideal. I mean, we all live with, oh, I'm so great and everybody else is sort of okay. And you can also, if you do receive that kind of criticism, you can. I'd certainly ask questions. I would certainly try and think. What do you ask someone? What makes you think that? What have I done? What's leading to this? That sort of thing. And again, if we're emotionally engaged and energized, in a negative way about that, that's difficult to do. But it's something, to try and hang on to. I don't know. Life in this world is just like a slap in the face a lot of times, it's just sort of a daily outrage, even without someone else getting right in your face and being critical about it. But that's everyone's situation. I think that might help too. If you can think of this as a little bit more diffuse. And finally, remembering that whoever or whatever is offering this criticism to you, intended, unintended, in a heartfelt way, in a way to attack, I mean, no matter how it's offered to you, that person is suffering. That person is suffering also. And that's also a very difficult thing to hang on to, when we're personally, triggered by something like that. But it's all worth doing. And the only way that I've found to be able to do it is just, I was going to say it's relentless, but that's a little too too severe for what I do. Maybe ongoing introspection, this ongoing self-examination, this ongoing just questioning, what is this? Who am I? And that's one thing that Ting really brought up in her talk. When you have an extended period of meditation like that, when you have an extended retreat situation, you don't even have to try to have all that stuff come up. It comes up and stares you right in the face. And that's one reason it is so uncomfortable so often at these extended retreats. But it's so valuable. It is just so valuable to see that, to see yourself, possibly, as others do. What's the old line? Awad some power the gifty gius to see ourselves as others see us. Yeah, that's an art. So I don't know, that's a series of random thoughts about this, Austin. I hope it helps. I doubt I'm any better than anyone at accepting criticism, but thanks for your question. Well, there's a couple minutes left. Does anyone have a quick question? Eileen, is that your hand?
Anybody can die at any time. Everybody wants to die in their sleep and not know it. But I could die tonight. What's the last thing I should think before I go to sleep?
Well, you could pray. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray my soul the Lord to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. That's what I Maybe the best advice I've heard recently was from Bobby Rhodes. She said she just, before she goes to sleep, she says to herself, please let me be reborn where I'll be most useful. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So maybe I'll just leave it at that. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for practicing together. And I guess it's time for announcements. Thank you.